Thank you, everyone, for joining us. My name is Kate Johnson. I'm the Manager of Faculty Engagement at Ashford. I'm excited to kick off this series titled Engaging Associate Faculty. I had the great fortune to speak with a number of faculty last year about the work that they were doing and planning to do to engage the faculty who taught for their programs and courses. I was delighted to see how many folks across the university that were already engaged in this work. And really, it's their passion that kind of inspired this series. I wanted to create a vehicle for all of us to have a conversation about faculty engagement with the potential to, share great ideas at the same time, commiserate on one or the others that sometimes we had trials and sometimes they failed. And I think that's part of almost all of the stories that you'll hear, that there's challenges along the way, but ultimately to start a dialogue about creating a community for our faculty body. The presenters in this series have not cornered the market on faculty engagement, but they are willing and they're excited to talk about their journeys. So let's get the party started. First, I'd like to introduce Dr. Tinianow, and hopefully Dr. Adam Gutschmidt will be joining us as well. They're both from the College of Liberal Arts. Early on in my journey talking about faculty engagement, I met with Dan, and Dan had already started sort of a learning community for the faculty within his program for ComArts, and I'll let Dan talk a little bit more about that, but excited for Dan to share his journey, but also really excited for all of you to chat. So this is absolutely a conversation. Please feel free to put your thoughts, your questions, your concerns into that chat as well. So without further ado, Dan, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you very much, Kate. I'm going to be introducing myself and trying to set up the technology at the same time. So if I seem confused, that's why. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dan Tinianow. I am the Program Chair of Communication Studies in the College of Liberal Arts, and joining me for the last part of this presentation will be our Communication Studies core faculty member, Adam Gutschmidt. Are you able to see the presentation now?
We are, Dan. I'm not sure if you're going to put it in presentation mode or not, but we can see it.
Okay, yeah, I will. I'm going to lose, well, no, I didn't lose my Zoom view going over to presentation mode. I was just holding off, and it seems to be working. First of all, let me say thank you. I see there's 96 people in this session. I didn't anticipate such a great turnout, but thank you very much for joining me. If you were in the TLC session that Adam and Ming-Jen and I did back in November, there is some overlap in this. Hopefully that is not going to be a problem for many of you. But this is about what we've done in communication studies to use Canvas as a platform for faculty learning communities, and how we've expanded on that idea and built it up into something that was really, with Kate's help, bigger than I ever expected it could be. I've already introduced myself, and Adam, who he'll say hello when we get to his part of the session. But let's take a quick look at what we'll be covering in this session. First, I'll be talking really about how we got to the starting line, really, with this idea, and the process of developing and launching that first class that we still have up and running. And I actually sent out 2 messages just yesterday to that group. We'll look at where we are now and how we have expanded the idea and how we might expand the idea further, and some of the future possibilities that maybe are not a little bit different from the approach we've taken up to this point, but related and further exploiting the possibilities of what we've done. And then if we have a little time left at the end for questions and answers and maybe a little brainstorming, because I know there's a few things that Adam and I haven't figured out that we'd love to get your input from, and hopefully some of the people in this session are other leaders of some of the other courses that have been built in the meantime. And but one of the things we really lack is a platform for sharing ideas between those of us who are doing this. So let's get into the genesis of the concept. For many or most of you, you're aware that before we were using Canvas, we were on a platform called eCollege. When I came into Ashford, eCollege was just what we were using. I would characterize it as not very user-friendly. It was not something I had a lot of insight. The times I tried to go in and do stuff on the creation side of eCollege, I found it to be very difficult and very frustrating. And I think a lot of us kind of rejoiced when it was announced that eCollege would be going away. And I was one of many of you who was hoping that Canvas would be selected, and was glad that it was. So once we were kind of confirmed that Canvas was going to be coming, I went to the Canvas online community. I signed up for a free account, and I started playing around with the course creation tools on my own, because I didn't ever want to be in as much of a disadvantage as I was with eCollege working with Canvas. So 6 months to a year before we ever started converting our courses over, I was already kind of going in and playing around with Canvas. And it was very clear to me very quickly that there was a lot of potential here for not just our courses. I recognize that our courses would be improved by Canvas, but that it would, that it could be used beyond our classes, beyond our curriculum, to build community, to do faculty training, faculty support, faculty mentoring and coaching, and maybe much more. It was an easy to use platform by comparison, and there was this huge community, very open, active community of other educators using Canvas and sharing ideas and answering questions. And by the way, if you've never gone to the Canvas community, you should check it out. There's a lot of great information there. And if you have a question that maybe you don't want to ask for some reason to our Canvas support team, you could ask it there. Not that our Canvas support team is not great and willing to answer questions, but it's good to have an additional resource. So I asked a lot of questions, and sometimes I was told it couldn't be done, but the potential was clear, and I was learning more about how to work in Canvas. Once we actually launched Canvas, well over a year ago now, I asked for, and was actually kind of shocked that I was given, a blank class for the purpose of creating this asset for my associate faculty in communication studies. And this had been a puzzle from day one of coming in as program chair of communication studies, was how to interact with my faculty. It seemed like I could email them, they could email me, but there was no good way to have group discussions. We tried a number of things. I tried a couple of things in eCollege that didn't work. I used the Yammer, the sort of pseudo social media platform that's part of Office 365, mailing lists, but nothing really seemed to be living up to what I hoped could be done until Canvas came along. And so we created that first class, which we'll take a look at in a moment, by the way. So we had to decide what was needed in the class, and it seemed like we would want to share resources to, I created guidance that and Adam created guidance that we've, in the meantime, made available for faculty to use and adapt if they wanted to, as I said, facilitate dialogue between associate faculty, and to open a channel of communication, an easy to use, convenient channel of communication from leadership to our associate faculty, so that when they logged in to teach their class, there'd be a message waiting for them rather than on a separate email account. And email is we know our instructors are going into the classroom pretty frequently, and so it seemed like a better place to reach them than email. Although, you know, email works, I just think that the inbox in Canvas is a little more convenient and a little more visible. And then, you know, who knows what else we might discover along the way. So let's take a look at the class as it exists. I hope this will work, and it didn't. So let me jump out of presentation mode. And okay, can you see the class welcome page now?
Yes, we can, Dan.
Okay, great. So this is the welcome page. You'll see it's, you know, it's fairly redundant, that there's a lot of things over here in the text of the welcome page that's also in the menu. We have announcements. As the course has evolved, we've used the inbox way more than announcements. So I think we've done dozens of inbox messages and only a relative handful of announcements. We have discussions. Anyone in the course can create a discussion, as far as I know. We've got, you know, discussion areas for each of the courses in COM, but also what did you do over the holiday type discussions, share family pictures type discussions, and so on. We have a lot of the features that you have in any Canvas class, and I apologize, it's on my second screen, which is why I'm looking over here. People, Portfolium is linked in. If we are implementing Portfolium across our curriculum, so I wanted it to be available to associate faculty here. We use quizzes to get feedback. We have a great files section where we share standard guidance that we've made available and other course resources, worksheets, and whatnot. We have a file area for each of our courses, and also some general file areas that I can jump over there, and you can see there's quite a number of folders within the files area. So yeah, we have guidance and other support documents. We have used conferences before, but I feel like Zoom is much better than Big Blue Button. For me, at least, I like it better. So when we do conferences, like we're going to have our beginning of year preview meeting coming up in a few weeks, we'll probably use Zoom for that. But I'll share the link to that through this course. Collaborations, if you didn't know, you can enable Google Docs-based collaborations in Canvas. We have a test document there, but we haven't done too much with it aside from test it out. There's a chat feature. We also, every time I check in, there's no one logged in. So I don't think I've ever chat with anyone, but it is there. We don't really have any assignments, although I've tested some group assignments that we were looking at ways to do things differently in the speech course, and I tested them out, which is why the assignments item is here. I'm not assigning my associate faculty homework, though. The only page is this welcome page. This gave me the opportunity to kind of customize the landing page. We have a link to the Writing Center and Library, and then some of these things are appearing to me. They wouldn't, the items, the last four items wouldn't appear to one of my associate faculty members because I'm logged in as the administrator of the class. So that is a quick look at it, and if you want a more detailed look, please feel free to reach out to me, and I can add you to the course, or just share screen and we can take some more time. Now I'm going to hand things over to Adam Gutschmidt, who's going to kind of talk about where we are now and where things are going. So Adam, thank you for joining us, and I'll mute myself, and you can take a little. I'm having trouble accessing my mute, but I'll try to mute myself and you can take over.
Very good. Thanks, Dan, and I apologize for the late arrival. Had a little bit of technical difficulties, but it seems like we're all good now. Can everyone hear me okay? Hopefully so. Yep, Dan's giving me the thumbs up there. So, all right, so we're good here. And as you just saw, Dan kind of provided an overview of the capabilities that the Canvas course has for our faculty. And now I'm going to go into a little bit more detail as to, now that we've been doing this for about a year now, what have we seen in terms of the way it's being used both by us, the designers, and our other faculty. So there are a couple of key common ways that it's being used, one of which is department announcements. So this has been a good central hub for us to be able to identify any important news and information to our faculty related to either department issues, or if there's some greater university issues that we need to make our faculty aware of. This is a good place to be able to do so. As Dan focused on a lot, it's been a great resource for us to be able to share content with our faculty members. We've been pleased with the fact that Dan and I have developed these standardized guidance for each of our communication courses, and have now been able to provide those in the Canvas course for our other faculty members, in order for them, if they want to incorporate that standardized guidance into their specific courses, that they can do so fairly easily. And there have been some other materials as well. We have a speech course where we're still trying to identify and finalize the rubrics to be used to grade those assignments. And so when we develop those, we've been able to share them with our faculty and get some feedback from them on the way that those are being designed. And lastly, discussion forum engagement. And this has been a really good opportunity for some community building between all of us. So whether it is discussing issues pertinent to our individual classes. So we've got it set up where each communication course has its own thread for matters to be discussed about issues going on in that particular course. But then we also will talk things more generally. So for instance, we just got done with the holiday season. We've talked with the faculty members about, what were they planning on doing for their winter break and some of their holiday plans. And it's a real good opportunity for us to get to know each other better and feel more like an actual whole department by having this place. Now, while there have been a lot of positives, we have seen some challenges in terms of making this course work works in a way that's beneficial for everyone. And of course, the biggest issue is keeping everyone engaged. This is true both for Dan and myself, as well as our associate faculty. So how do we make sure that we are providing content that allows or encourages our faculty to visit the page regularly and want to be engaged, whether it's through the reception of that information, or whether it's through conversations and dialogue that they have with us and with each other. And related to that, the other real challenge is, of course, time. How do we, in our busy schedules, fit in yet another whole course, in essence, to participate in? We've got our own courses that we're teaching. A lot of our associate faculty have other jobs that they work, and so to make time to participate in this Canvas class can be a little daunting. And so we're still continuing to investigate ways to make this an engaging area for our faculty, and one that they want to spend time in. And certainly we've seen from our feedback from our faculty when we've talked to them about this course and what they think about it, usually we get very positive feedback from them in terms of its potential and what it can be used for. And they like the idea of having this space not only to receive content from us, but to be able to talk about these matters. But those challenges that I just talked about are being echoed by our associate faculty. So they too say, boy, I wish there were more faculty being engaged in this Canvas course, or I wish I had more time to participate myself. So again, we're continuing to work on those things and hopefully address them in a way that we can really make this worthwhile for everyone involved. Okay, we can go to the next slide. And so while we obviously are focusing here today because of the fact that Dan and I are presenting this on the Canvas course that we have developed here in Communication Studies, we are not the only ones that have started this. And in fact, there are actually 3 faculty classes in COLA right now. We have the one, as we're talking about here today, through communication studies that was developed by Dan and myself. But you also see one that was developed by the Cultural Anthropology Department by Drs. Peterson and Sorensen. And we also have one in the Sociology Department that was set up by Drs. Alden and Rosen. So we're getting different departments involved with this, which is great. And while we each are taking the same basic approach, it's great that we're having multiple departments develop their own classes, because we're getting to see slightly different approaches to how it's being used. And we can then talk with each other and understand how each department is doing it in hopes to work with each other and make each one as good as possible. So then what you're seeing on this slide now is what we've basically done is tried to use the common terms and categories, the Canvas features, if you will, that are seen in all Canvas classrooms, and use that to provide the tools and content for this faculty Canvas course. So with the Canvas features of files, announcements, quizzes, discussions, inbox, people, chat, and collaborations that you see in the right-hand column, on the left-hand side, you see each of the ways that we're using those Canvas features specifically for this faculty course. So for instance, in the files page, you see program files and any recordings that are being done. With the announcements, that's a good opportunity for us to be able to keep our faculty updated on things that are going on in the department, and so on. A lot of these things you already saw Dan kind of go over as he was reviewing the Canvas course itself. So I won't go into each of those, but you can see here how it's being used. And certainly we're continuing to look for new ways of using each of those features. The chat function on Canvas, I believe, can be used similarly with the collaborations, like with Big Blue Button, where we can have our faculty and us engage with each other, if I recall correctly. And Dan can maybe confirm that after I finish things up here. There's one more slide that I want to get to, and then we can get more into specific Q&A with everyone here. So then, moving forward, what are we looking at in terms of the potential for this course? Well, certainly to begin with, we want to see more departments developing Canvas classes for their own faculty, and continuing to collaborate with each other in order to figure out the best way to design this so that each department has a Canvas course that works best for them. We also want to try to develop some additional classroom elements that will be of use. One of the things that we've talked about is possibly trying to recognize when good work is being done by our associate faculty. So Dan had mentioned to me, he gets the information as far as who are his top 5% instructors in the department, and being able to use this Canvas course as a way of recognizing and talking with those instructors, we feel can be very beneficial, not only in terms of recognizing their good work, but also getting a little bit of feedback from them as far as what are they doing in their classroom that maybe others can adopt in their own. We also want to look at the possibility of developing multidisciplinary classes. So having, for instance, communication studies work with sociology department, and creating one that can be for both faculty groups in order for them to not only communicate with each other, but possibly also work on some possible research ideas. So when there's those crossover opportunities for a multidisciplinary study, this could be a good way of setting up that initial communication base for everyone. And we don't want to just limit this to faculty. If possible, we want to also look and see if we can develop these Canvas courses for students. So for instance, have one based on their major or minor, and have students who are, for instance, all communication studies majors be able to communicate with each other and help each other out in ways by using the technology that Canvas affords them. Likewise, for any of the student clubs that are part of Ashford, if they want to have a good central place for them to organize and communicate with each other, I think this is a great possibility for them to use as well. So there's a lot of different things in the hopper, so to speak, that we can use Canvas for, that we're already beginning to investigate and hopefully see its potential in the coming year. And ultimately, I think the one last takeaway is making sure that if you are setting one of these up for your department, make sure you're giving it full attention. Don't let this be something that sort of dies on the vine and gets set up and then becomes this wasteland where no one ever contributes anything to it. So if it gets set up, make it useful for your faculty members. And I think the more everyone participates, the more useful it'll be for everyone.
I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen because it seems to limit my ability to interact with Zoom. And I see one question posted, Kathleen. I would say I'm the person who primarily built this class. Adam has consulted and advised as we put it together. But I can tell you it's not that difficult to learn to do Canvas authoring. It's on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, opening an email and 10 being, creating a complex website. Canvas, making a Canvas course is probably around a 3 or a 4. It's fairly simple.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I just wanted to share with folks that Dan started with a blank Canvas course, but we offer Dan not only started with a blank Canvas course, and you absolutely can start with one of those, but he has been generous enough to create a template that you can kind of pick and choose what you want to create. I also did a training for full-time faculty that I can send folks a recording on just some basics of organizing your information. But I think, Adam, you did such a fantastic job of talking about this. But maybe if you can, share a little bit more about, maybe even equating engaging faculty to engaging students in the classroom, that it left on its own, it's probably going to flounder, but so maybe some of the challenges that you guys have faced in that area, and how you're looking to overcome it to keep your faculty engaged.
I mean, it is a challenge, and one of the things that I suspect would be most helpful would be some sort of a method of communication between, I don't know, Kate, last I asked, it was like 65 of these courses. So the people who are overseeing these courses could exchange ideas, and, I think we're pretty good at engaging faculty through inbox messages. Maybe someone else is better at announcements, and we could share ideas and improve performance across the board just by sharing ideas. But it's not surprising. I think no one would be surprised to hear that it's typically we have like 4 or 5 associate faculty who are very active, maybe 15 or 20 who we hear from once in every great while, and the rest of them we've never heard from. So I assume that when they log in, they're seeing the inbox message. I can't confirm that they've read it. But I do get most of my interaction in response to inbox messages. So, yesterday I sent out 2 messages about some new standard guidance we made available, and I got a bunch of responses, none of which were about the guidance. They were about other things. It was like opening that communication opened a door for them to come back to me with other things. And if I had a wish list for this course in terms of what the technology enabled, I would wish that we could open a discussion format thing in the inbox. so that I could basically mail out a discussion that would work like a discussion, but it would be at a higher level in terms of my associate faculty being able to notice it and access it. If I'm explaining that clearly.
And I would just add,
yeah,
go
besides the reply all, there's no way, it's everything that came in yesterday was between me and individual associate faculty.
Yeah, there was just a couple things that I would add, especially coming more from the teacher side of things. One is obviously, just like you see with your students, when you first start it, that's when it's going to be most important. So you want to make sure, especially from the designer perspective, or if you're setting it up for your department, getting things going right away is going to be critical. So don't just set it up and make an announcement that it's there and then don't do anything with it for several weeks or several months, because then it's just going to be forgotten. So if you get a good initial start, that's going to get your faculty members engaged with it from the start, and hopefully then that carries on if you keep that momentum going. The other thing that I would say is, if you can find a way of setting up at a good time where there's going to be a primary reason for them to come. So I know we set it up similar to the correspondence with the development of our speech class, which was brand new. And so there was a lot of information that we had to tell our faculty members about that particular course and how it should be designed. And because that information was so important, that gave that initial added incentive for our faculty members to stop by and retrieve that information. So again, if they've got that initial sort of motivation, that's going to then help establish and let them see that this course not only exists, but this is the central place to go whenever they want to go and either get information or communicate with their peers about the issues that are going on in the department.
And I've shared my screen again because like over a year ago, I created this Canvas course for course leaders like myself to share ideas, and I just didn't get much interest. But maybe it's time to solicit this again and try to get people involved. So I think I've created like 4 of these Canvas courses now for different things.
Yeah, so Dan was showing a course that's specifically for those of you who are creating these Canvas courses, whether for faculty or I know there's many ways that people are using the course, but if you don't already see it on your dashboard and you're interested in getting in there to share further ideas on how to execute the best possible class, and that's going to look different. All faculty are different. Please let Dan know or send me a message, and I'll make sure that message gets to Dan to get uploaded. There's a message in there for you, Dan. Is the Canvas shell public, or do folks need to enroll?
I've been enrolled. I enrolled people at their request when I first, there was a much smaller group then. So I'm not sure who's actually in this course. It's let's see. Well, it's about 20 people in the course, but no one's logged in for several months at this point. So it might be time to give it a try again.
I'm seeing a question here, but can you help with how to enroll people? Julie, I absolutely can. And like Dan said, it seems like sort of a daunting task, but once you get in there, if you've ever created an announcement in your classroom, basically everything kind of looks like that. But I will absolutely, you and I can set up one time, and I would be happy to work with anybody to help support you getting your courses launched. I know a lot of faculty who are in this class, the webinar, already have really great spaces. And I'm sure if we can kind of get a singular place where all this information is going to live, those who already are doing, I'm sure would be happy to help those who are looking to launch.
Yeah, speaking for myself, I would love to see what other people are doing with this shell, and steal their good ideas for our own course.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're already over time. I wanted to thank Dan and Adam so much for kicking off this series. Every one of the sessions in this series are going to be different, so we won't be on this community learning next time. We'll be on to Dr. Michelle Rosser Majors and her journey to engagement. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I appreciate all of your comments and feedback, and I'll make sure to get this recording out to everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.